you spoke about the Worldwide Fingers Network already. You spoke about the 60 countries. Now, 2 of the country representatives are today with us. Joining us is now G, and joining is also Lucia Crivelli from Buenos Aires. So please introduce yourself shortly, 1 minute. G, maybe you start.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Andrea. I mean, this has been so fascinating, and I'm really excited for the discussions ahead. So I'm Udeh Momoh. I'm a translational neuroscience scientist, and my research focuses on understanding mechanisms linked to dementia prediction, but also prevention. I'm based across Wake Forest University and Aga Khan University in Kenya, and affiliated with Miia's group at Karolinska Institute in Sweden. So my lab adopts translational research approaches to elucidate dementia prevention pathways and strategies across diverse populations. But I think very relevant to the topic on hand is that alongside leading the Africa Fingers program, I co-lead several relevant working groups, including the Worldwide Fingers Biomarkers and Biorepositories International Working Group that Miia showed just now, but also the Global COI-sponsored work stream on implementing blood-based biomarkers in clinical practice. And importantly, I've recently co-founded the Female Brain and Endocrine Research Consortium, and this was convened to address female-specific risk factors for incident and incipient dementia. And I'll be sharing a little bit about the work across these different work groups today.
Lucia.
Hello, my name is Lucia Crivelli. I'm based in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I am coordinating the LATAM Fingers Initiative. This is a finger model prevention trial that involves 12 different countries in Latin America. So it has been a very challenging and a very rewarding effort to bring together leaders from 12 different countries. We were inspired by the amazing results and the hard work from the original finger and harmonized with that trial. And we are already in the 2nd year of our intervention.
Great. Maybe, Lucia, if you just continue for a little bit. So what are the plans right now in South America? I mean, I can imagine it's not a simple environment with so many different countries involved. So what are your plans right now, and what are the plans for, let's say, the next 3 to 5 years? If you can
So
keep it, keep it short.
Latin America is, I will keep it short, has the highest percentage of potentially modified risk factors in the world. We have 56% of our cases can be prevented. So we have a lot of room for improvement, and that is why it was so easy for me to convene leaders from the different countries, because we are all worried about brain health in our region, and because there are no brain health policies in the countries that are involved in our initiative. So the plan is to develop this trial and to look into other factors that affect brain health and that have been overlooked in the research literature. When we talk about women, there are 2 main factors in Latin America that are very strong and are very harmful. One is gender violence. You know that of the 25 countries with the highest rate of femicide, 14 are Latin Americans. So we have a lot of gender violence, and this starts like a chain of events that lead to depression, social isolation, TBI, and other risk factors for dementia. And we also have a very high rate of teenage pregnancy. Teenage pregnancy accounts for almost 30% of the births in some regions of Latin America. So 30% of the children are born from young mothers. These young mothers don't have the opportunity to finish high school, so they are low educated. Then they don't get the opportunity to get a qualified job. So they become part of a poverty cycle in which they don't get proper nutrition, and they are vulnerable to other risk factors such as obesity and cardiovascular risk factors. And we have a lot of things to do with this specific 2 topics in women in Latin America.
Lucia, come back to that. Africa, very poor countries. different components contributing to Alzheimer potentially. What can we learn from your area? What is different in terms of different risk factors, but also potentially gender differences? What's specific?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Andrea, that's a very, very important question. And I'm just reflecting on some of the things that Lucia talked about now in terms of those contexts in Latin America, those determinants. And it's quite interesting that we're seeing similar being highlighted even in Africa. So in Kenya, where I work, we've developed strategic partnerships with organizations like Worldwide Fingers and DAC. And we've initiated several readiness cohorts in preparation for intervention programs, but really thinking about those specific determinants of cognitive impairment and dementia. I want to just tell you I'm African, so please bear with me, we deal with stories. So I want to tell you a story that about something that's just happened during a visit last month to one of the very rural communities in Kenya, where we're intending to host dementia studies along being funded by DAC. So incidentally, there was a tap that was provided to this community for safe drinking water. It was installed in that village. However, installation of that tap was detrimental to women because women in that community go to the stream to fetch water. So you've taken off physical exercise, but crucially, the social aspect of this activity had been taken away from them. So had the donors of the tap sought to explore with the women in the first instance whether that tap would be beneficial, a more optimal strategy could have been developed. So maybe purifying water so that people could still have that social aspect to go to the stream and then, come back and purify it. Because, Miia mentioned about social activity being crucial. What we're finding from our studies in Africa, especially in a large scale longitudinal study, we found that beyond risk factors such as stroke or other modifiable factors, social engagement presented almost 4 times highest risk for both men and women in terms of developing incident dementia. So I think that for moving forward, most of our strategies around prevention will really have that social engagement. So it will be based on social attributes, but also thinking through some more contextual context as well, like what Lucia mentioned in terms of we're finding domestic violence to be an important predictor of cognitive impairment and dementia. We're also finding similar things like caregiver burden. So we'll be leveraging all of these unique attributes that we're discovering in our populations for more personalized strategies toward prevention.
And a short question to both of you before we bring Miia back into the conversation. Are there specific aspects in your parts of the world which can be transferred back to the origin, if I may say so? So what can we learn from your learnings in your countries? I mean, I would be super interested to see, does nutrition play a certain role? I guess overweight, you don't have in the same way as we have it in the developed country. So are there factors we can bring back and improve our situation?
I don't know if you want me to start, but
yeah,
because I spoke to Kelly about this as well recently. So no, it's very intriguing because the more we go in, so our approach is really communities based. So we co-design everything with our local communities. I liked what Sans was talking about with addressing inequities by funding these community-based strategies, because I mean, that's the DNA and the blueprint of our work in these settings. And incidentally, when thinking about caregiver stress, it's not unique to, I'm identifying the fact that there are lots of burdens that are being identified that are similar to what we're seeing even in the developed or Western world. I think that it's safe to say, women from early life have this burden of care. And I don't think it's a detrimental burden. I think it's the fact that it's not reimbursed, not appreciated, that really provides the detrimental effect, to women as a whole. So I do think that really leveraging those, rather than seeing them as unique factors, but thinking through the learnings from how can we ensure that girls and women are compensated, are appreciated, and their caregiving to the community is acknowledged. I think that's something we can actually take back to Western societies, where also caregiver burden across the lifespan is highest in women, and we're seeing that that's really linked to mental and poor mental health as well.
Lucia, one short question. Sorry, I have to always cut you, but
No
what
problem.
are the learnings we could take back from your part of the world?
So from my part of the world, one of the most important things to say is that there is little information. So the papers that you can see, the Lancet Commission data was published recently, but the study it's based on, it has more than 10 years. So we need more epidemiological studies here. But there was a very interesting study done in Chile that was the only one that compared potentially risk factors between men and women. And what they found is a 10% difference between men and women in that region. Women having higher rates of depression, higher rates of physical inactivity, and men having higher rates of alcohol consumption. So there's a lot of things that we can do. Today, before our intervention, George talked about, and you talked, Andrea, about tailored intervention for women. I think we should do much more research on the topics we mentioned before about domestic violence and about teenage pregnancy and these other factors that may be different across genders in order to start to think about tailored interventions for women.
Wonderful. I have a last question on this topic for Miia. In preparation of this dialogue today, I really looked into all the data, Miia, which you have generated over the years. It's just an enormous data collection, wonderful data. And obviously with now the AI possibilities, all the data management and data science which we can use. Do you believe we can soon take these data sets, which are invaluable? I mean, they are so valuable for us, even when you think about vaccine strategies, and actually tailor personalized risk reduction strategies, make it an individual assessment of what is the risk factor of a certain individuum, and then develop a tailor-made intervention. Because I mean, today the audience, I'm sure every single one will ask this question, well, what about me? How can I do something? How do I know my risk? What biomarker can I check in order to define my risk and do something about it? So what are your plans to use this incredible data set, and how can we come to this sort of individual strategy where I think the field is going?
Yeah, this is the direction, more personalized precision medicine or precision prevention, because we need to start early. So what we can tailor the interventions, taking into account all the risk factors and profiles. And here using the big data, I'm talking a lot about AI fingers. We can also use the new kind of analytical methods to find new signals. So that's the direction. We also need to keep in mind the whole life course. There may be different risk factors when you are young, midlife, earlier in life, or later in life. And as you said, it's lifestyle and maybe the pharmacological treatments put together when needed, so that the right persons get the right treatment at the right time. And for me, the gender sex differences is the low-hanging fruit to start that. And I'm really believing we can do that with joint forces. She and Lucia, wonderful leaders in the regions. We can use the Worldwide Fingers data to map the differences. Then we can plan the new interventions, new studies, and finally also increasing awareness, because I believe that is very important.
Yeah, and I think it's all worth it. Well, I think we could spend hours still on this subject, and I think we will certainly come back. So I just would like to thank you today for your time, but even more so for dedicating your careers, your life to such an important aspect. And obviously from a BHP perspective, we will do everything to support your very important work.